Hello, welcome to my lecture on the assignment of understanding consumer behavior. Again, this is a group assignment, so you should work as a group and then submit one report through the Dropbox, which is inside the week 12 folder. And so this is a group assignment for week 12. This assignment is about understanding consumer behavior. Obviously, this is a very important topic because, for one thing, if we think about what we do as marketing managers for the all-style brands, then pretty much we're trying to understand behavior and then plan and execute our marketing plan accordingly. And consumer behavior and understanding consumer behavior is so important. I think that we have an independent separate course in our curriculum that's called consumer behavior. So anyway, get back to the task on hand. So this is an opportunity for you to get your feet wet in terms of understanding consumer behavior. Sometimes we can purchase data about consumer behavior from third-party research firms or companies, such as in our simulation, you can spend some of your budget money on purchasing those marketing study reports. And here, we want you to go out and literally, but in the meantime, if possible, keep your social distance, to interview consumers who have purchased, who have bought OTC cold drugs before. And then we want to understand their decision-making process. So here we are introducing a model which says that there are 5 basic steps in consumer behavior and decision-making. The first step is problem recognition. The consumer needs to recognize there's a need or want or some kind of problem. And second, the consumer will do sometimes extensive, sometimes very limited information search about the problem and then about what can be done about the problem. So which naturally leads to the next step, which is evaluation of alternatives. You have 1 or 2 or 3 options which product you're going to choose, which is step number 4. You pick one out of the available alternatives. And 5, you most likely will do some kind of a post-purchase evaluation. You're satisfied, you're not satisfied. You may even go to the length of posting or comment something about the product on the internet. You may want to mention that to your friends, to your dorm mate, to other people. Could be good review, could be bad experience. And sometimes the process may be relatively easy, and we get so used to it that we don't even realize that. For example, here we have an example. If you want to purchase a soft drink because you are thirsty, and then consumers really oftentimes don't think too much about it. You pick Pepsi or Coke or water or ginger ale, and then you buy it and you like it or don't like it. Sometimes the ticket item, it's a big ticket item. Let's say you're buying a new car, you're buying a house. Then, of course, naturally people will spend way more time on information search, on evaluate the alternatives before they can make a decision on achieving the product choice. And they might even get help of professionals. If you're buying a house, your agent, lawyers will get involved. You're buying a car, you often get the help from the sales representative, the sales manager of the dealership. So, but if you think about it, the basic 5 steps still applies. Recognize the problem, search for information, evaluate of all available alternatives, choose a product enjoy it, consume it, and then have some post-purchase evaluation. All right, so the task of this assignment is for your group to pick one individual, ideally not a member of the group, maybe your family, maybe a friend, and then find out the steps that they took when buying OTC cold remedies. And how much effort did the consumer put into his or her purchasing decision? Is it so easy, or does the consumer really put a great deal of effort and research into the purchase process? Okay, and then as it says here, trying to find out who or what influenced the individual's buying process. Is that, a mom made a recommendation to the daughter, say, hey, I used that drug before, OTC cold drug before, it really helps me? Or is that a friend, or some information from internet, or that WebMD, the website, or some other information? Okay, so we are interested in how the process gets started, who makes the decision, and for example, for a whole family, and which benefits the consumers were considering when they're purchasing an OTC cold remedy. All right, so those are the questions that we'll generally use to guide your interview. And the interview doesn't have to be face-to-face. It could be via the phone, could be email questions. So here is the template or the format that you can use to summarize your interview. Again, it's a PDF, so it doesn't save. Create a Word document and then recreate the table there. List interviewer names, interviewee names, of course, could be representing the whole group. And your group could say, okay, each one of us will come up with a question, and then we get answered, and then a date. And then we put together, the answer to each question. So problem recognition, information search, alternative evaluation, product choice, post-purchase evaluation, those represent the 5 steps that we just mentioned. Okay, so you can read the more detailed description of each steps, but here, of course, we're talking about purchasing OTC cold remedies. So I think the problem recognition could be, very obvious. Information search will be interesting, which are the information channels that this individual used to search for information. Again, is that informal for friends, from family, or just at a pharmacy and talk to the pharmacist, or use an app on the phone, or search on the internet. So all those, and maybe there's no particular specific information search behavior at all, because that individual is so used to get the same kind of OTC cold remedy drugs every time. So that's possible. Alternative evaluation, what are the informations that's collected and then used and evaluated in terms of the different alternatives? There could be a bunch of other things. For example, from the case, we know that there's how the product is packaged. Is that nasal spray, capsule, or liquid gel? Is that 4-hour, 12-hour? Is that, the mainstream brand from pharmaceutical companies, or is that a generic brand from the store? So, and many other aspects. And then, of course, price. Maybe there's a promotion going on, so that's maybe there's something that right in the aisle of the pharmacy where the individual found the drugs. Maybe it's the position on the aisle or on the shelf that popped or made one product stand out in particular? All right, so product choice, which product did the individual end up purchasing or getting? And then post-purchase evaluations, it could be satisfaction, the overall feeling, was it working, was the money spent worth of the drug? So was the drug worthy of the money that the individual spent on it? So any other post-purchase evaluation is summarized here. So in addition to the 5 steps, here there's one thing that's observations or conclusions from the group. Any observations, any connections between what you found out in your interview and what the case simulation is about, from our perspective as the marketing team for this pharmaceutical company. What can we learn from the information that your group collected from this interview? So any observations and conclusions, reflections, critiques, all those are relevant and welcomed in this section. Okay, so this is my lecture about the group assignment of understanding consumer behavior. Again, you need to do an interview of a consumer of OTC cold drugs or remedies, and then use the questions listed here and use the template to guide and then to summarize your interview and end your report with your observations and conclusions.